Hey babes, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching me, my name is Jenny and today I'm going to be trying out the brand new Urban Decay Cyber palette. I'm going to be showing you swatches, we're going to try out the shadows on the eyes, and I'm just going to be giving you my honest opinion and thoughts about this exciting palette. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright babes, so before we get started, I do want to mention that I received this palette complimentary from Urban Decay in PR so that I can review it and show it to you guys. But as always, you guys know I like to keep it real and we're going to be trying it out together on camera for the first time. So I first wanted to show you what the outside packaging looks like. I think it's a pretty cool packaging and theme and idea. It's definitely very fun, and this is what the actual palette looks like inside. I personally really like it. I know that not everyone is going to be a fan of this palette, especially because of the color selection that's in it. So let me go ahead and open it so that you can see it. I'm going to show you a better close-up in a second. But those are the shades that come in the palette, and I'm just gonna say that when I first saw it on Instagram, I definitely thought that the colors were very springy and light in my opinion, and I know that we're heading into fall, so I don't know. I thought this would have been more of a spring palette, but I do like the color theme and the colors in this palette, especially because I do enjoy using peachy tones, natural colors. There's not really that many dark colors in this palette, with the exception of this dark brick color. I think that's what you will call it, but it's definitely a very light and neutral palette. In general, I do see a lot of shimmers and we're gonna get into that in a second. But before we get into actually using the eyeshadow palette, I wanted to share some information about it, and I'm also gonna be sharing some of the swatches here on the screen. So it says that this is their vegan, futuristic shimmers and neutrals eyeshadow palette. It says unlock new levels of eye looks with the vegan Naked Cyber eyeshadow palette featuring 12 dreamy, shimmery neutrals and reflective duochromes. It says to use your fingers with the sheer shimmers, glitter, and duochrome shades for more color payoff. And it also says to unlock next level color, mist your brush with the all-nighter makeup setting spray before dipping into the palette for a foil, almost wet effect and long-lasting smudge-proof color. Okay, that's pretty interesting that they actually included that information in here. I mean, I know that in general, using your fingers just gives you a better color payoff, but I always like to try both ways just in case you don't like to use your fingers and you just want to use your brush. But they already are telling you that that's just the best way how these shadows will perform, and also that you can use your all-nighter makeup setting spray, and I'm sure you can just use any type of makeup setting spray and it will probably do the same. But I just wanted to share this with you guys, and I don't see a price on here, and I was trying to check on the Urban Decay website, but I don't think it shows that it's available yet. I do know that it's gonna become available in the US on September 21st, which is tomorrow. Technically, when you guys watch this video, it's already gonna be available, but I don't have a price for you guys, so I'm just gonna add it on the description box down below once I know it. But I did see on their Instagram that it's gonna be available in the US starting September 21st on the urbandecay.com website, and it will be available on September 22nd in store and online at ulta.com, and on October 10 in store and online at sephora.com. So that's just a different date, but you can already purchase it at urbandecay.com starting tomorrow, which is actually today when you guys see this video. But I just don't have a price for you guys, but let's go ahead and put away all of those boring details and actually start using the palette. So I normally do like to use their little brushes that they send because they're actually not that bad. And as you guys can see, I already have my face makeup on because it's currently almost 8 p.m. So this is the makeup that I wear today, but I don't have any eyeshadow technically on my eyes. So we're just gonna play around with this palette on top of it. And I do want to mention, in case you see it, that I do have some redness going on this eye, and it's just something else, so don't think that it's a side effect from using the palette. That's just, I don't know what's going on with my eyes. I haven't been sleeping well. But putting that to the side, I really don't know what colors I want to use. I mean, I do want to try a few shades if possible. So let me go ahead and start using, I really love peachy tones, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this shade right here that it's called Virtual. It's a very light peachy shade. So I don't even know if this is going to show on my eyes. Oops, I forgot to apply any concealer, but they do say or recommend to use their eyeshadow primer or concealer, and they did send it to me, but I just forgot. Sorry about that. But it should be okay because I already had concealer from earlier, so I think it should be fine. Okay, and just as I thought, this color is not really doing a lot for me, but that's just because of my skin color. So before I go on to the next color, I do want to make an observation, and that is that I personally do like to add a darker matte shadow to increase the intensity on the crease. And besides these colors right here that are really light, the other matte shadow that is darker will be this one right at the end, and that is definitely very dark. And I am going to use it lightly, but I do wish there was like another in the middle, you know, not as light, not as dark, but something in the middle that I can use as a matte eyeshadow just to add more depth to the crease. But that's just an observation. I think that definitely goes back to what I thought originally, that the palette itself, it's really light colors in my opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not gonna be an universal palette. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'm gonna grab some of it on this really tiny brush that I have, just because I really don't know how pigmented it will be. Okay, it's kind of pigmented, but it's not as dark as I thought originally. So I'm just gonna add it on the outer part for right now and see where it goes. I'm actually gonna use a clean blending brush just to diffuse this a little bit further. I really don't wanna bring this shadow too high above the crease. So I'm going to be grabbing a flat definer brush to apply the same shadow. I didn't even tell you the name, but it's called Bite, the darker one that we're talking about. And I'm going to apply it right under the lower lash line. I'm going back to the tiny blending brush, and I'm just going to diffuse it so that it looks really well blended. Okay, so this is looking so pretty so far. I definitely did not think that I was gonna like this darker shadow as much as I am liking it so far, but it just looks so pretty and it blended so easily. And I do want to point out that there's no fallout. Maybe there's just like a tiny bit right here, but not a big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same on the other eye, and I'm just gonna be right back. Okay, so this is what those two shadows look like so far, and so far I really like it. But let's go ahead and try out some of the shimmers, and I'm just having a hard time deciding what colors I want to use next. I definitely want to use at least 2 more shades just so that we can try them. And let's go ahead. Okay, let's go ahead and dig into this shimmery peach shadow called Electrody. I think that's how you say it. It's right here. It looks very pretty on the pan. I'm gonna use my finger first, and then we're gonna use a brush with the setting spray just to see the difference. Okay, so that is a single application with your finger. I mean, it doesn't look that bad, but I can definitely use more pigment if I can. So okay, let me see. Okay, it's a pretty color, I'm not gonna lie, but I do want to intensify it a little bit. So I'm actually gonna be using my All Nighter setting spray on a brush just to see the difference. Using the same shade. Okay, that definitely made it look a little bit more foil, if you can see. So maybe using the setting spray with the brush might give you a little bit more pigment and color payoff. You can totally use your finger if you want to, but I'm just showing you both ways so that you can decide. Alright, so next up, I'm gonna use this silvery shadow, not a butt. And I'm actually gonna use a brush directly just because I do want to use it on the inner part of the eyelid and my finger can't really get in there. So let's go ahead and try it. Oh, it's a little bit, I don't know, it's very sensitive to the touch. Maybe I was putting the brush a little bit too hard. Okay, the brush alone gave me no pigment, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use the setting spray again. Okay, that definitely helped. Look at the difference. Also, I wouldn't recommend using it with a dry brush because I did notice the shadow was a little bit too loose. So that would definitely give you a lot of fallout. So that setting spray makes it easier to apply and obviously gives you more pigment. Okay, so here's the final look. What do you guys think? I did add some Ardell Wispies just to add some extra drama, but so far, I mean, I do love the eye look. I think it's very beautiful and I love the colors, but now let's go ahead and get into my thoughts about the palette. So I do want to say that I have mixed thoughts and emotions about the palette because when I first looked at it, I do love the theme, but like I said at the beginning, the colors are definitely more spring, light and airy, and like, I don't know, I look at it and I think about spring. So not so much for the fall time, that we are literally almost in the fall time, but I will say that this color right here, the darkest matte shadow on the palette that I use in the crease, it's so beautiful. So that shadow alone, it's definitely fall, but that's just my opinion in regards to the color story about the palette. But most importantly, let's talk about how the actual shadows worked on the eyes. So there is 1, 2, 3, like 4 matte shadows, and out of those I used 2. So this one right here that I used first, it definitely blended out really easily. It felt really soft on the eyes, but my only concern with it is that it barely showed up on my eyelids, and that it's obviously because I do have a medium skin tone, so the shadows might show up differently depending whether you have a lighter or darker complexion, so just keep that in mind. So for me, these other lighter shades probably wouldn't really show up on my skin color as much, but it's definitely a nice shadow for a soft peach color, maybe for a daytime look. So definitely that one didn't really work out as I wanted it, just because it's not as pigmented on my skin color. However, the other one that I really love is the darker one that it's called Bite. This shadow, you guys, is so beautiful and it blends like a dream. Literally, you guys saw how easily it was to blend on the crease. That shadow makes me really excited for fall, even though the palette itself is not really fall theme in my opinion, but that shadow is so pretty. So just keep that in mind, that is probably the only one darker shadow that you can actually use from this palette to intensify any eye look, because even the other darker one, okay, these other 2 darker ones right here are shimmery shadows. When you swatch them alone, they are also really light colors. They're not really dark colors in my opinion. They're beautiful shades though. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you can achieve a really dark look with this palette. Like I said, that is definitely just the theme of the palette. It's more of a softer, lighter color story with this palette. Now, the one thing that I do want to comment on, it's on the shimmery shadows, the ones that I use on the eyes. I definitely was expecting a little bit more pigment and more color payoff, especially because I know it's Urban Decay. I did use it with my finger first and it didn't give me the color payoff that I wanted. So I definitely had to use the brush with the All Nighter setting spray, which is actually what Urban Decay recommended to get the most color payoff out of your shadows in this palette. So that is just the one thing that I want to comment on, that using just my finger alone didn't give me the pigment that I wanted. However, when I did use the brush with the setting spray, it looked so beautiful. You guys can see it. So I do think that you just have to learn how to use these shadows better. So definitely using the brush with the setting spray. I'm sure any setting spray will work. It's just better to get the most color payoff with this palette. The same thing happened with this one, and even with this one, if you want to use it with your finger alone, it was a little bit loose, the formula, that it was giving me a little bit of fallout. So definitely wetting your brush with the setting spray before dipping it in the palette, it's just gonna work better for you. You're not gonna have as much fallout and you're gonna get the most color payoff. So that is just the one comment I do want to make. Definitely keep that in mind. So overall, would I recommend it? I really think that it's up to you whether you're looking for something like this. I definitely love the packaging. I love it and it feels really great quality. And I do love the colors, but it's definitely a softer, lighter palette in my opinion. It's beautiful shimmer colors though, but you definitely have to wet your brush before using it. Overall, I mean, the eye look looks so pretty and I definitely want to play around more with this palette to see what other looks I can come up with. But that is everything for this review. I hope that you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.